Well, we finish it with Belarus and we go to Tajikistan. Yes, it's the second Premier League which is still playing with TV streams on the post-Soviet territory. I must say that almost all games are live on MyKujo, but if not on MyKujo or you have some problems with MyKujo, you can use Lime TV Russian site with Varzish TV and Football TV. It's Tajik TV channels, and you can watch it on this site. I will leave that in the episode's description too, because some people really do not know about that sources. Turkmenistan High League also restarted to be correct last midweek to be correct also, but unfortunately not TV streams of the Turkmenistan High League nowhere, even for their people. They have only one sport channel, and on this channel they have usually some international English, Spanish, and all that football. So football for football in Turkmenistan, not for fans. It's odd, very odd. They even have problems with kickoffs, so people often come to the match and see that match has ended. So it's very, very odd. I did not watch the Tajik football match, but I found some time for the two last games. Istiklal 2, Hatlon 2, Kuktash 1, Hujant 1. And I've seen some really nice, very nice goals, even superb goals. Yes, they play with closed doors, but I can't say that Belarus play definitely more interesting football. And so I'm very, very glad to say that we have our first guest, we have our pundit, Neil Holloway, British man who really watched more Tajik footy last weeks than me. So well, let's listen to his thoughts, and also you can enjoy real English without my Russian dialect.
Hello, my name's Neil Holloway, and I've been asked by Dima to talk to you a little bit about the Tajikistan League, some of the main teams and the main players. There's been a lot more interest in the Tajikistan League over the last few weeks because of the coronavirus. We've now just completed round 3 with Kuktosh and Hujand making a draw today, 1-1. So let's have a look at some of those teams. It's probably best to start off with Istiklal, which means independence in Tajik. They are probably the most successful club in Tajikistan of recent years. They've won the title the last 6 seasons, and last season they won the treble. This season they've got off to a good start. They won the first 2 games, beating Dushanbe 83 7-0 in the first game. In the most recent game, they survived a scare when they drew with Catalan, but they got a 95th minute penalty against Catalan, and this has led to quite a bit of controversy over the last week. The referee's been suspended for 2 weeks after giving the penalty and sending off one of the Catalan players. But once again, they're the favourites for the title, and they don't really ever slip up that often and drop points, which is more than can be said for the other contenders. The club, though, comes from humble beginnings. But they've achieved success pretty much from day one. They were formed in 2007. They won the second division in 2008 with a goal difference of a massive plus 147. In 2009, they then came up to the higher league and finished 4th. And in 2010, they won the treble of the league, Super Cup and National Cup. So, they've reached a lot of success in a short period of time. Some of the players that you should probably look out for, firstly, there's Sheridan Babayev, who's a 20-year-old forward. He's already scored 3 goals in the opening 3 games this season, and he's going to get a lot more opportunities to get on the score sheet in the upcoming games. He's also Tajikistan international, and he made his debut against Nepal at the age of just 17. He's only 20 years old now, though. Another attacking player who looks really good for Istiklal. Another attacking player who looks really good for Istiklal this season is Manun Çekircaililov, who after 3 games already has 5 goals and 1 assist. He, unlike Babayev, he's not so young. He's 29 years old. He's recently returned to Tajikistan after a fairly successful spell in Indonesia, most recently with Persebaya Surabaya. And then at the other end of the pitch, there's Alexei Larin, who is adding some grit to the defence. He's a 25-year-old central defender who signed from Arsenal Kiev. Istiklal have a Ukrainian Tajik manager, Levchenko, who used his ties to bring him in. So he's a player he believes in, and one you should keep a lookout for. The team that's finished runners-up to Istiklal in the last 3 seasons is Khujand. So they really must feel like the bridesmaids rather than the brides of Tajikistan football. They also come, as well as being second best, they come from the second city in the north of the country. It's a very historic city that they come from. The club itself was founded in 1976. Their biggest achievements have been winning the Tajik Cup 3 times in 1998, 2008 and 2017. They'd really be looking to try and win the title this season, but they have got off to a bit of a disappointing start. Draws, as I said, today, and then in the previous game they lost to Khatlon, so not really the best of starts if they do want to win the league. There's some really talented players in their squad, so it's a shame that they're not doing that well. First of all, there's Fathulayev. What a tremendous name for a player as well. He can play on either wing, and he's always likely to pop up with an assist. In the recent game, he did score the equalising goal, so he's a really exciting player, and one who's a no-nonsense sort of midfielder. A defender who can play anywhere across defence is Khurshid Beknazarov. When Khujand keep a clean sheet, it's usually because he's had a good game. But he also likes to go forward, and he occasionally chips in with a goal. The third player who interests me, but hasn't got off to as good a start as people would have hoped, is Andrei Sidorov. He's a colossal Uzbekistan international. He can play in central midfield or centre forward. I think if Khujand want to get the most of him, he's probably more dangerous as an out-and-out striker, which they don't seem to have realised yet. He started off his early career at Uzbekistan Pakhtakor, but a lot of the time he's been on loan to other clubs, so it'd be good if he was given the chance to settle at Khujand this season. A team that's really impressed and perhaps wasn't most likely to impress this season are Khatlon from the southwest of Tajikistan. They're a team that's quite often in turmoil, and so is their city. The city itself is close to the air bases that were used in the Soviet war against Afghanistan in 1979, and more recently it's been the centre of Tajikistan's civil war. Therefore, it probably comes as no surprise that they've had all these problems over of their history. The original Vakhsh club, as they were called, was founded in 1960 as a farm club for CSKA, and they played in Dushanbe, but then in 1966 they became a club in the Khatlon region. And despite a pretty successful record in the post, despite all this, they've had a pretty successful season in the post-Soviet record. They won the double in 1997 and the league in 2005 and 2009. That said, they have been on a steady decline since 2010. In 2018, they were taken over by the local government after almost going bankrupt, and recent rumours would suggest that they're close to going bankrupt again. At the moment, though, they're in second place, and they had a really, really difficult start. So getting 7 points in 3 games, including wins against Khujand and away draw against Istiklal, which, as we said, was a very controversial draw for Istiklal, with their 95th minute penalty and the sending off, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute or two. Some of the players, and they have got a lot of very talented players, but some of them are Haramatullah Saidov, who's a 20-year-old defensive midfielder. He's got a lot of skill, and he's really starting to prove himself at Catalan after being released by Khujand last season. There's Umedjon Sharipov. Sharipov managed to get a goal in the last game against Istiklal. He was also the player who was sent off. It remains to be seen if he's suspended, given that the referee's been suspended for 2 weeks because of his actions. When he returns, if he does miss the next game, then I think he's going to be a very impressive player. I mean, he is a great player. There's also Quay Gordon, who's their goalkeeper, and he really was brilliant against Istiklal and against Khujand. He comes from Ghana. One thing that's interesting to say about Gordon is that he's only 1.73 m, but his bravery and acrobatics mean that this Catalan side, which is very, very attacking, can feel very confident at the back. Even though because they quite often leave space at the back, because they are a team that like to get forward. Another player who's worth looking out for is Hussein Nurmatov, who's a right back who also likes to get forward, so he can play on the right wing as well. He hasn't played very much for the team yet, and he hasn't this season so far, but I think he will be integrated into the first team this season. And at 19, he really has the potential to improve. Some of the other teams that would hope to be doing quite well and be at the top end of the table include Regar Tadaz. Regar Tadaz from Tursun Zoda in the west of Tajikistan. And they are one of the famous names of Tajikistani football. So they've started off with a win, a draw and a loss in the opening 3 games, which will probably be a disappointment for them. Between 2001 and 2008, they were champions every year apart from in 2005, when they also finished runners-up. I mean, Istiklal are clearly the team that have taken over from them as a dominant side in Tajiki football. Between 2009 and 2012, they were also runners-up every year, and they won the Tajiki Cup 6 times from the year 2000 up until 2012. One of their proudest moments comes when they won the now defunct President's Cup, an Asian cup for teams in emerging countries, and they won that 3 times, but that's been discontinued for some reason, that cup. They also have a couple of players who you should look out for. First of all, Farukh Nurlibayev. He's a tall central defender. He comes from Uzbekistan. And he joined from Kyrgyz side Akademia Osh in 2018. He hasn't made a major impact this season either, but I think we'll see more of him in the weeks to come. There's also Nozim Bobajanov, who's a 24-year-old who started his career at in the Rubin Kazan Academy in Russia. He's an attacking midfielder who should get a few goals and a few assists if you're playing some sort of fantasy league football with this league, as I know some of you are from the tweets I've received over the last couple of weeks or so. A club that's living off past glories even more than Rega is CSKA Pamir. Then, despite a win over Lokomotiv Pamir, they have lost their other two opening games. These were against Khujand and Istiklal, though, so, it's not surprising that they haven't got many points on the board yet. As the name suggests, CSKA are an army club, and they were originally founded in 1950 and had the advantages that, other police and military clubs had in the Soviet Union. They were the only team from Tajikistan to play in the top league of the Soviet Union. And they disappeared off the footballing map for a while, and then were reformed after the Tajik Civil War in 1997. Unlike a lot of the other CSKA clubs, you're probably more familiar with CSKA Moscow. Unlike them, they still enjoy the patronage of the army, are still an army club. Some of the players to look out for are Artem Gaidash. He signed for the club in winter from Ukrainian outfit Podilya Khmelnytsky. He was given the captain's armband straight away, so that shows some of the faith they have in this player. At 30, he's got more experience than most of his teammates, and once he's settled, I think he'll probably be the best attacking midfielder that this team has got. There's also Shodibek Gafarov. He's a centre-forward who's already proved his worth this season, with 2 goals and an assist in the opening 3 games. So, despite CSKA's indifferent start to the season, he's shown some decent form. Also in Dushanbe, we have Lokomotiv Pamir, and like their city rivals, CSKA, the name gives a clue to the club's past. The locomotive part of the team was founded as a railway workers team in 1961. They also disappeared when the Soviet Union was disbanded. They were reformed in 1999, so a bit later than CSKA were reformed. They disappeared though quite quickly, and then were reformed once again in 2008. Since then, they found success hard to come by, so they merged with Pamir FC in 2017. Last season, they were promoted as champions, and so despite an indifferent start, though, they are expected to do well and at least to stay up this season, which is a higher expectation than perhaps the other promoted teams have. They are a very young team, though, and there'll be a lot of pressure on their goalkeeper, Sharuk Kyrgyzboyev. He's a 17-year-old goalkeeper. It's very unusual to see a goalkeeper this young in a top division of football, and he's also got a lot of young defenders in front of him. So, he's going to have his work cut out. It could be the making of him, or it could finish him off. On the negative side, he's already let 5 goals in, but he has kept a clean sheet as well. So, let's hope Shokaruk can do well this season and get playing. Helping him out in the defence, though, is the oldest player they've got, who's a 26-year-old Ghanaian called Benjamin Asamoah. He's looked pretty decent in the opening games, but, he's playing with teenagers, so he's really got to up his game a little bit. At the other end of the pitch, though, there's Shahram Suleimanov, who's added some firepower. He's a left winger. He'll provide centre forwards with assists, and he's grabbed a goal himself this season. Loco have lost both of their top scorers from last season, so the actual out and out centre forward, Islam Zoirov, who has scored already this season, a lot of people will be expecting a lot of him. He's got a bit of a weight on his shoulders as well. He's another player who's come up from the youth ranks and isn't that old. Next up, we should look at Kuktosh. Kuktosh most recently had a very good draw against Khujand. Some really, really good performances out on the pitch. They first season in the higher league was in 2018. In 2018 they finished third, and in 2019 they finished sixth, which, mid-table, that's not bad for them, and that's something they'll be aiming for again this season. One player to look out for, I don't think he had a particularly good game last time out, but Muhyiddin Adilov is an Uzbekistan forward who was the club's high scorer last season, so there will be a lot of pressure on him. Also keep an eye out for Otabek Karimov, who's an explosive central midfielder who can also provide a lot of goals and assists for this team. At the other end of the table, at the very bottom at the moment, we've got Istad Avshan. The Northern Tigers were originally formed in 1928 as Spartak, and they've had several name changes. The team actually folded in 2013, despite, or maybe because of a $3 million renovation to their stadium. Maybe that's what made them bankrupt. Who knows? The new club was only formed last year, so at the moment it really is a case of nice ground, shame about the team. They have got some decent players, though, that you should keep an eye out for, who will hopefully get them off the bottom fairly soon. First of all, there's Ilhomjon Baratov. He's an attacking midfielder who, in a struggling team, he's already got 2 goals in 3 games in what is a very struggling team. Yet to get off the mark, though, is the Cameroonian centre-forward Mbeki Sibacho. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly he settles into this team. He's new to it, and not a lot's known about this player, so he could be a bit of a risk. So it'll be good to see if he's reaches his potential, or if he's a mistake by the Istad Avshan board. Also, though, keep an eye out for Bakhtor Zokirov, a versatile right back who really likes to get forward. He's recently returned to Istad Avshan after 3 years at Hujan, so he's got some experience at a higher level, as a higher level team anyway, at all. The 2 teams that also came up last season are Dushanbe and Faizkandvosi. Dushanbe 83, to give them their full name, because there are a lot of teams from Dushanbe. They're celebrating their first season ever in the higher league, and so far they haven't really had it easy. On the first day of the season, they went down 7-0 to Istiklal. Then they lost 1-0 to Lokomotiv before drawing with fellow new boys Faizkand. So at least the results have been going in the right direction, although it could also be argued that the opposition has been easier as they've gone along. The club have quite a African contingent. There are 5 Ghanaians playing for them, and you could technically say that there are 6 Ghanaians, because there's also Kyrgyz international Ali Jarari, who has spent most of his career travelling around the leagues of Central Asia, including Tajikistan. He's played in Tajikistan, he's played in Mongolia, he's played in Uzbekistan, and now he's over here in Tajikistan. The most famous of the Ghanaian contingent, apart from Ari, though, is a player to look out for, is Agbly Jones. He's deployed as a centre-forward, but he's yet to score this season. But once he clicks, I think we'll see quite a few more goals from him. Faizkandvosi, for them, it's also their first season it's their first season in the top league. That said, they're unbeaten. They've won 1 game and drawn 2 of their opening games, so that's not a bad start for them. Some of the players to look out for in this team are Jasur Kurbonov, 23-year-old from Uzbekistan, who is the king of assists. He's going to get a lot of assists this season, I think. And he also looks capable of getting a goal when he goes forward. And there's also Fathullah Babayev, a goalkeeper who joined from Tadas, and he's looked pretty solid so far for them. Okay, so that's a rundown of the Tajikistan teams in the higher league, and that's all for now, but you can check me out on Twitter if you want some more information. Okay, thanks.
So, hope you really enjoyed part of our episode from Neil. Hope to see you later in our next episodes. We'll have Russian non-league football, our native football. We'll talk about how we do during lockdown, what football will be, and we'll have season or we'll have no season. So stay safe. Good luck.